Thanks for joining us. And so my name is Derek LeBlanc. I'm president of the Kids S.A.F.E Foundation, and we're a 501c3 nonprofit based in Eugene, Oregon. And so what we specialize is, firearm safety, accident prevention for kids, but we also teach them how to shoot, which is, I think, really important skill to learn, especially at a young age. And the goal is to teach them factual information. And so a little bit about me is, my journey to get here today started back in 2013, where I was put in a position where I needed a firearm and I didn't have a firearm. And so on that morning, I was going to work on a Sunday morning. I left my gun on my kitchen counter, and I figured with my coffee, because I figured I'd just go warm my vehicle, come back, get my gun, go to work. Nothing would happen. And so on that morning, as I hit my transponder, I left the gun on the kitchen counter. I noticed there were some feet exiting the rear passenger window of my truck. So there was somebody inside the vehicle. I ran around the hood of the truck. He was getting up. He was pretending like he was a CSI. He's like, I noticed your window was broke out. I thought I'd check it out for you. I didn't fall for it. I immediately swept his legs, did a judo throw, ended up on top of him. And that's when the fight began. And that was probably the most terrifying time of my life, because I didn't know if he had a needle, a knife, any kind of weapon that could potentially hurt me at that close range. Could have been deadly. And all while I was on the ground with him, I was calling for my girlfriend at the time to get my gun, to get my gun, to get my gun. And so she finally came out after about 10 minutes and saved me with my own firearm. All she did was point the gun. And at that point, he gave up. We called law enforcement. They came, 8 cops, 8 flashing lights, 8 sirens. Nobody woke up. Only person that woke up was our 8-year-old son, and he thought I was being arrested for having too much ammunition. And unfortunately for me, there's no law about having too much ammunition yet. And so that's why we're here today. We're here to talk about the future of our 2A and how we engage with the next generation. And believe it or not, you guys are the future. And we have kids here, and I'm thankful to you guys. And this is stuff that we can do as a family. And so we have to make the 2A fun, and that's what we do as an organization. So since our founding back in 2016, we've reached over 29,000 kids in 9 states now, and taught them life-saving skills on what to do if they come across an unsecured gun. But we also talk to them about how to effectively use the gun. Like, we're on the range, we're teaching them accuracy, we're marksmanship, safety. And so part of that is we're trying to normalize guns. And one thing I want you guys all to say here with me is guns are normal. Say it with me. Guns are normal. They're completely normal, and they get a bad rap, which it's understandable. I get it, but in the reality, guns are used far more for good than they ever are for bad. And this problem is we always shine the spotlight on the bad, and that's why I'm glad you guys are here, because what we do as an organization is we shine the light on the good, and the good is we reach young children, we start them on the path, and make sure that they're safe. Then when we're safe, we're protected. And then from there, then they get to have the fun. And show of hands, how many of you guys have tried shooting before? You have? Perfect. What's some of our favorite types of firearms to shoot? What do you like?
He's only shot a Glock.
A Glock? Okay, cool. Handgun? Okay. How about you guys?
I like shooting shotguns.
Shotguns? Cool. Those are fun. Okay, so the greatest gift my father ever gave me was a Red Ryder BB gun, which we're down here. We have the BB gun range, okay? He gave me one of those at 3 years old. And the greatest gift that I have now is I get to give that back to all of you. And so I get to pay it full circle. And one of the things my dad did for me at a young age, at 5 years old, he gave me a shotgun. And he taught me how to shoot the shotgun. Obviously, the first time I shot it was not the greatest experience, because I didn't know how to shoulder it. It was a little big for me, and it was a scary situation for me, but I learned about the process, the cause and the effect of the firearm. And so from that, I was hooked. And I've been shooting, hunting, competing. I've been an instructor now, all from that first experience. And so that's where with the children, if we teach them right from the very beginning, we're going to be safe. And, with the handguns, those are great, right? So we always start off with the rimfires. I love the rimfire because everything is really easy. It's a little bit quieter, no recoil, so it's easier for us to make the 2A fun. And next we have to make it relatable. So what's important to note is the one thing that we all share in this country, okay, whether they like to admit it or not, is we all have a 2A right. And it's something that crosses all socioeconomic divides, all political gaps, our ethnic, everything, gender, everything is tied back to that basic fundamental right to our 2A. But going forward, it's going to fall, and we're going to pass that torch to the next generation. And that's something that we've done as an organization because our focus is the children. And to teach them that, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of. It's something that's completely normal. It's just like riding a bike, really. It might be a little bit dangerous, but if we're safe, it's just as safe as riding a bike if done properly. And that's what we do. So here in this, we're actually on the range and we're showing the kids how to load a detachable box magazine for a Ruger American rimfire rifle. And really great bolt action rifle. I love the bolt action because we're able to kind of control the flow of the class, keep everybody on the same page. And so we're talking about shotguns. What kind of shotgun? Was it a pump action, semi-auto? Pump action, cool. I love the pump action because that's another where I can control the flow. I can make it more relatable because I have ultimate control because one round at a time. And so that's what's really, really important. And when we're talking about our Kids Firearm Safety 1 class that we do, which we're going to be doing here tomorrow, we're going to be talking about the semi-automatic, which is commonly and often demonized in the media because they say it's a fully automatic and they don't understand the process because we have people that are talking about these types and these action types of firearms that have no basic knowledge of our firearms. And so for us as parents, that's our job, is to be able to push back and say, hey, no, and re-educate our kids. And one thing about our children is we have to realize is our kids are getting inundated with different information. Okay, it could be on social media, it could be your friends, it could be teachers at school. So there's all this information coming at the kids that it might not necessarily be the most positive when it comes to our firearms. And so as parents, it's our job to educate our kids on what we feel is right when it comes to our 2A rights. And so the goal, it might be a difficult conversation, depending on your circle of friends, but it's something that we have to have these conversations. We have to say, I respect your right to not educate your kid, but this is my child and this is what I'm going to do. And because if we look at the data, especially here in California, and that's why I'm so glad to be in California, is there's no actual, we have San Diego Firearm School, he does training for children, but it's very limited. And that's what's important going forward is to reduce these tragedies, we have to educate the kids. And so, I know it can be intimidating, it's scary, but there's always a way to start somehow. So we make it relatable. And so next is we normalize it, okay? So when we make it relatable, we normalize it, it makes it fun. And here, this is for our teen program, is we have bolt action rifles that are scoped, so we go out to 100 yards with those. They're suppressed, which the rules here in California, can we have suppressed rifles? No suppressors? Womp, womp, womp.
Not that they know of.
Our secret, right? It's between you, me, and the internet, right? So yes, that they know of. So that's the biggest thing, and that's scary because, I'll stay off my soapbox. But we normalize it, right? And I try to be apolitical with what we do. Obviously, I stand in defense of my 2A. It's a civil liberty, and it should be treated that way. But the only way we protect that is making sure our kids know the importance of it. And we have to teach history. We have to teach the reason that we have our 2A rights. And so when we normalize it, we make it fun. And we inspire. We inspire once we normalize, okay? This is my friend Riker. A little story about this young man. He's completely blind. And I met him at a class. He came to a class and they arrived a little bit early. I had no idea. And so when I'm working with young children like you, I don't want you guys touching guns, okay? But when his eyes are his fingers, I had to change my approach. And so in that time, so now we've changed the way we do things. We have an adaptive program now where we can actually teach them, where the hammer is, where the trigger guard is, where to keep our, because if he was, let's say at a friend's house, and he came across a gun, he has to know where the muzzle could be pointed, So that's what's really, really important for somebody that these are his eyes, And so this was after our first time on the range. And what I did is, those box magazines that I showed you a little bit ago? I actually I taught myself Braille. and I actually engraved Braille on this magazine so he could know how to load the magazine, because he knew where the bullets were going to be oriented down the barrel. And so I met with him a couple days ahead of time, and from there I gave him some homework. I gave him some dummy rounds. I was like, okay, you're going to show up on Sunday. This was Friday night, and I said, okay, here's what you're going to do. This is how we do it. So I taught him how to load. And what was amazing to me, since these are his eyes, he showed me how to do a Rubik's Cube. I've never been able to do a Rubik's Cube, but he did it in less than a minute. It was absolutely incredible. And that was all through the Braille. Okay, so from here we showed up at the range. I gave him his homework. When we were loading the magazines, like I showed you just a minute ago, he was faster than any other kid. And that was kind of the most powerful thing for me. And I might be crying right there. I can't confirm nor deny. But the thing is, it was so inspiring for me, because all I could see from his parents is they just wanted something normal for him. And that was our goal as an organization, was to present the information in a way that every child can learn. And so that's what we did. And we spent 2 hours on the range. He shot. He had a spotter, which was amazing. So we developed a little way for him to shoot. And that was, I walked him back with his rifle, and we went through the whole process. And that was such an incredible, powerful moment, because anybody can do this if just given the opportunity. And that's our goal. And so we inspire. The next is we have to empower. We have to empower our kids to know that it's okay to stand alone. And we might stand alone when it comes to our two-way rights, because not everybody understands the importance of them. And so it's really, really common. You look on social media, it could be your friends. It could be the parents of the friends that are trying to say that guns are scary because they don't know how they function, right? And so when we empower, we teach our kids to think for themselves. That's one of the most important things our kids need to know, is how to think for themselves. Obviously we want them to respect authority, but there's also a time when we can say, no, I'm not gonna go along with that. We look back to 2020 with the pandemic, right? So it's okay to stand alone and push back. So we empower them to know that they are the future. And so part of it is we have to just have a very frank conversation. It's a very adult topic when we're talking about firearms, especially our two-way rights with our kids. And some of our kids are not going to understand, and that's okay. But if we start them and we progress them, and once they get to of age, the goal is to have young kids become teenagers. Teenagers are more responsible. They can handle different calibers, right? And then once they get to 18, then they can vote, okay? That's what we currently need right now, is we need votes. We need conversions. We need to turn this pie. We need to grow this pie. And we do that by making sure our children know how important it is to show up at that ballot box. And so, I still have more I want to talk about. Obviously a lot of it is, these are just kind of my notes. We have to go on the offensive, okay, as parents. And when we talk about going on the offensive, what does that mean? What it means is we write legislation. Is we're the subject matter experts, and we introduce legislation. I did write legislation back in 2019. I'm going to try again this year, but would authorize our program for all the public schools in the state of Oregon. I'm going to try here. And that's why I'm so thankful to be working with the San Diego gun owners, is because we're going to try here and give, because that's what our kids need. They need options. Right now, there's no options. There's just one way, and that's not necessarily the right way. And so that's where we have to understand that for us to really keep and protect the civil liberties that we have and enjoy and love, we have to bring up the next generation. And I know you got some big shoes to fill, but I know you guys can do it. And that's why I've dedicated my life, because I believe in you guys. And even if I haven't met you yet, I believe, because I got good parents here in the room that have taken the time to spend this with me, just so they can learn on what they can do. And it starts with like maintenance. Maintenance is a great way to teach the kids, right? We can talk about the parts, the functions, how we always properly store the gun. That's really, really important. A prime example of proper storage is what we just witnessed in Georgia. And, as gun owners, we never, ever want to see anything like that ever happen. But we have a duty to make sure that those guns are properly stored. And that prevents these tragedies, either the kids finding it, coming across it and hurting themselves, or that gun making outside the home. And so that's where we have a duty. And we can protect our communities by making sure that we're doing our part inside of our homes. But we don't need the government to tell us to do so. We just got to do the right thing. I've had enough governmental intervention, okay? So I believe in responsibility and safety, and I can be responsible, and that's going to help protect me, my family, and my community. So you can find out more information on our website, KidsSAFEFoundation.org. These are some of our sponsors. Walk the Talk America, that's one of our partners. Tremendous organization that helped us get here. Also the San Diego gun owners. And I'm really thankful for the opportunity to be here. And I'm a little short on my time. I'd love to touch base. And if you guys have any questions for me, I'll open it to you guys. Do you guys have anything you want to talk about?
I think the Hunter's Education course is a very good entry into getting children involved in firearms.
Absolutely.
He took his class earlier this year, and
okay.
it was. Most of that class is, about 80% of that class is geared towards firearm safety. So
Good.
If you're not sure what to talk about, how to teach firearm safety to your child, that's a good approach to it.
Absolutely. And so even if you're not into hunting, right, it's like these classes are structured more than just hunting. Obviously, the end game would be to be able to go out in the field, but there's life lessons. The Boy Scouts used to do it. I'm not sure if they're I don't know how active groups are here in California. The issue that I see is the fact that you have a government that wants to take away your ability to educate your kids. And I feel that that's wrong. And I can prove that it's wrong through my education and just my life experience and doing what I do. And it's amazing to me is every time I come into California, it's the fact that the parents don't necessarily think about gun safety with the kids because everything could be illegal, right? It's like you could have a gun that was legal 2 years ago when you bought it, then there's a new law, and now that gun is now illegal because of a pen stroke, and now you don't want to talk to the kids about it because that kid could go talk to a friend at school, and then it's just going up the food chain, right? And so that's actually counterproductive to the safety of our kids. And that's where, a good analogy is the hot burner, right? You have a hot burner. What's the first thing you need to tell your kids? Don't touch the hot burner. What do? They touch the hot burner. And so it happens. That's how our kids learn, right? And it's completely normal. But the problem is with the firearm, it could be fatal or life-changing, life-altering. So, that's where I'm kind of coming at it from a safety. And, there's, just have these conversations. It's completely normal. And there's nothing to be afraid of if we do everything appropriately, So, any other questions? How many of you are playing video games? What kind of video games would you like to play? A lot? Okay, cool. What do you play?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. Okay, cool. So, how many of us are playing online? We're playing online? Okay, cool. Okay, so do we have those parental settings locked down, right? Do we know about online safety? And so about how we're not sharing personal information with other people because we don't know who's on the other end of that screen. And so that's what's really, really important as well. And we're talking about guns, sometimes you could have a teacher or a doctor that's going to, especially in my state, the doctors and the teachers now are asking the kids about guns at home. And I feel from my personal experience that that's a matter that's between the parents. And it's not between the teachers or the doctors. It should be your right to, if you have a firearm in the home, that's your business, not anybody else's. And so with that being said, though, it's really, really important is we educate our kids about gun safety and true gun safety, okay? There's groups that are active, okay? And they're all around the country, and they'll say, be smart, okay? And that's their thing, right? The problem with the Be Smart program is they think that the safest thing for you to do for your kids and your family is for you to get rid of your guns. Okay, that's their idea of gun safety. And so that's where we got to push back and say, hey, no. There's nothing wrong if we do the right things. If we do this, and that, our kids are going to be safe. And we need the gun. The gun serves a purpose because of, hunting, sporting, defensive purposes, right? So the guns are very, very valid, especially in California. So that's my thing. So just be really, really careful. And I talk gun safety. The problem with gun safety is that term has been corrupted. And so gun safety, true gun safety, does not have the weight that it used to have. It's because of those other organizations they're trying to come into our lane, and they have the funding, they have the billionaires, they have the infrastructure, and there's groups like us, that are doing the work, but we don't have that funding and we don't have that infrastructure. Yeah.
You just mentioned the point of teachers or kids or teachers and doctors or emergency rooms asking if there's guns at home. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's more of a two-way, the reason for that question, do you think it's more of a two-way grab, or do you think it's more of a what's been going on and maybe there's signs of abuse in that home, so that's why they were asking? Do you think they're just asking the question to ask the question to find out about, or do you think it's more of a, I'm trying to help, I see there's maybe signs of abuse?
So in reality, the signs of abuse, that's a great question. In reality, the signs of abuse are not going to show in a firearm, right? And what they're trying to do is they're trying to gather information. I would consider it similar to like a red flag law or an ERPO, is they're trying to build information that could be used against you. Sometimes the doctor's questionnaires are having, do you have guns in the home? Like whenever I see that, if I go to the doctor, like I'm not answering that question. It's not my doctor's business. I'm not there to talk about guns. I'm there to get care. And so that's where I feel that this line is being colluded, and so it's really, really important, as we understand, is our kids have conversations with us about our guns, but that's where the conversation may end, is we don't have outside conversation about our guns because it's nobody else's business, right? I think the most important thing is when we're talking about play dates, like that's where those conversations are important. Like if your kids are going out of your care into somebody else's care, is maybe have conversations about proper storage of that gun, like ask them if those guns are properly stored. But other than that, like I really don't advocate too much about kids, especially in California. It's just, this is kind of California specific because of just kind of how toxic, and it shouldn't be toxic, the whole conversation is. Like this is a totally normal conversation. We go to the Midwest, everybody's talking about gun safety. Everybody, the kids at 5 years old are shooting, and that's what we do. Like we have a tradition, we have a rich tradition that predates the founding of our country back in 1776 of us using firearms and using firearms responsibly. So hope that helped. I don't think I think it's more of a power grab than anything. I don't think it's not really going to help. So it's just, I think it's people abusing their positions and they're being told by outside influences. So yeah, you have something?
About the public schools, the education situation, like that's from when I've been in school, like the only thing they told me about the 2A amendment was just like you have the right to own guns is based off of like the government of the British not taking away. That's all I've been like remembering, I've been told. Like,
Okay.
how would that change for the education about here?
That's the $1 million question. How old are you?
So, 21.
21. Okay, so you're a voter. Okay. What's important to know about our 2A rights? Our 2A rights were never about hunting. Okay. Our 2A rights were about our founding fathers that escaped tyranny from the British back in the 1700s, and they want to change the definition. They want to change history. They want to change the relevancy of our 2A. When we look about what's happening today, our 2A rights are more relevant than they've ever been because of our God-given right to self-defense and also be able to protect our families and the people that we love. And like where I'm from, to protect a person that I don't even know. I have the right to do so in my state, depending on your jurisdiction. So I would love, like if you have any questions, I would love to be a resource for you. And that way I can kind of help you, because this is a really important time for you in your life, is to understand that what you might have been taught coming up might not necessarily be the truth, and they're trying to hide the fact that as everybody inside this room are more of a solution than anything they've ever proposed. And that's why gun control fails. And it will never succeed, because it's never about succeeding, it's about money. It's all about money, it's all about power. What's amazing about the money and the power is the money from, we'll talk about the quote unquote billionaire, right? The billionaire gives to the local groups, right? That goes and does all these events, like when they wear red shirts, they talk about be smart. And what they do is they have a database, and they have these volunteers that go out into these events to do these table the events to take away your ability to protect yourself. And then what they do is they gather information. Okay, and once they gather that information, then they use that information to help elect candidates that don't align with your values. And so that's the most important thing is you're 21, you vote. You've got to know your candidates, you've got to vote. As California citizens, understand the referendum process if you have one, write legislation. Like change the debate by introducing your own. Like you might be an expert in, let's say, whatever, right? If you want to change something here at a level, start with the local county level and then go up to the state level. And then maybe we can go to a federal level. The whole point is just to start somewhere. And that's what the greatest thing about coming to an event like this is you're with like-minded people. And this is a safe environment, and this is a welcoming environment, but this is also a great environment for our kids. And it's time for us we can spend together. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'll get off my soapbox. I hope did that help you?
Yeah.
Good. So be strong. Tell your friends, okay?
Some of them don't agree with me, but yeah, no problem.
And it's okay to disagree, okay? But we have to remain civil and bring the facts, okay? I heard this term the other day, which I loved. It was called fact intolerant. Fact intolerant, okay? So they weren't necessarily calling the other side a liar, but it was fact intolerant. I'm like, hey, I like that. I'm going to use that somewhere. I just used it for the first time. Here, fact intolerant. They don't like the facts. They don't like the data because the data and the facts don't support their position. We have everything here. We have the Bruin decision. We have the Supreme Court. Like these are huge wins, and we should be celebrating, and we should also be taking these victories that we're getting in court and stringing them along so we can roll back some of this stuff. So, but only way we roll it back is making sure that you guys are ready to step into the breach, and so it's almost your turn. So, and I'm kind of speaking in generalities, but you know what I mean. You get what I'm saying. So, any other questions? Yeah.
I have a comment.
Comment? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not a microphone. It just records it for the online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad I came to today's presentation because, as a Gen X dad, I look back in the years of where I think guns were more acceptable than they are now. And as I look back, and in the 90s when there was a big push for education against drugs, like Just Say No and all that. I think back and say, can something be done for kids to enable or empower them to understand that guns are not necessarily evil, but that discussion does not occur. It would be nice if maybe a grassroots can think of ways to empower kids to have that safe talk, to let them know, because I don't think it's happening anywhere else. It's not happening in the government side. It's not happening. And I think that can help plant the seeds to let them discover for themselves that they're not being misinformed, that they're not being disinformed, that they can think and reason and appreciate the sport and ways of self-defense that may not be available to them. So I'm hoping that maybe grassroots can be more readily seen in time, but I wish that those avenues are available to us today. But but I don't think we're there yet.
No, and I completely agree. And that was a great comment. And I'm Gen X. And a little bit about Gen X, right? I used to take a shotgun to school with me, and it was in a gun rack because I'd go hunting after school, completely normal. And so, it was not a gun issue. It's never been a gun issue. There's things that we're not focusing on. There's a lot of people that are hurting in our country. There's people that are struggling with mental health, and that's where we should spend the money and resources there. And it's not coming after all of us because we're not the ones that are committing these crimes. We're not the ones doing anything. For the most part, we're all the ones that are doing the right thing. But the problem is they're making everything harder for all of us. And that's where I struggle coming from Oregon is I don't know how to be lawful here. I don't know what it is to be lawful. I don't know what lawful means here in California. I know what it means to be responsible. That's all I know. And so that's where we should be having this conversation. Let's change the conversation about lawful. Let's talk about responsible. It's my responsibility to keep myself safe. It's my responsibility to protect my family. Okay? I don't know what that means, if that's lawful or not, or if it's responsible. So I got to kind of weigh that out. The scariest thing is people have good intentions and they come across the wrong side of the law because of something that they thought they knew, because things are ever evolving, and that's really scary. So, I hope you guys got something from this. It's a greatest honor to be down here to help your kids and your families, and to give your families options, right? That's what we need is options. And you guys got to be able to look, we can tilt the scales, what makes sense. It might not make sense, but this would make sense because it's something where our hearts are in the right place and we're doing the right thing. So our mission, I'll end it with this, is our zero firearm accidents is the only acceptable goal. Until we get to zero, we're going to continue to work. And we lose, 1 to 2 per day across the country. Every night at 8 p.m., I get a Google alert on the tragedy that happened somewhere in the country. And it breaks my heart because I want to save them all. But I need your help. And that means we keep those guns properly stored and we educate. You guys are the first line of defense in many ways. So I'm just here to support.